Yeah. All right, welcome everybody to the May meeting of the IDA BDC. We are gonna start with the BDC. And I will make a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second? A second. Motion made, second. Any additions, deletions, or discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried, thank you. So we'll go to, Sean.
Yeah, Sean, if you wanna come in the room. Many of you have been around for our workings with the Cortland Housing Authority. And their proposed project, which is 53 units, housing units for people 62 years or older. We've provided some funding to the project over the last couple of years, and the thoughts that you would be getting HCR funding as well as other grant funding in order to get this project off the ground and running. I don't know if any of you heard, but they just got denied for, what's the second time? The plan is to continue that and to apply again and probably into August for probably end of year determination once again. However, their option agreement on the parcel that they're on is expiring, November?
Yes.
Yeah, November. And the terms of the next option may be changing a little bit, depending on that. So Shauna approached us to see what and how we might be able to do something, to assist this project going forward. And internally, we were discussing possibly going the route of doing a typical loan to purchase and exercise the option on the property. But one part of that is that through our policies of the loan, we cannot execute loans to nonprofit organizations. So we would have to discuss this one as a group to see if we are interested in entertaining an application for this, and two, if we should trigger a governance committee meeting to discuss changing the policies and what that policy might look like in order to execute a loan to a nonprofit organization. Sean, I don't know if you want to provide any insight on the project, where you are, where things sit.
Last month, we did receive $2 million through the New York State Office of Temporary Disability Assistance. So I recently had a meeting with our state rep, and he said, because we got that funding, we're pretty sure to get the HCR funding, which would be senior housing program funding and tax credits. It's very competitive. You usually don't get it the first time. We were hoping we'd get it the second, we didn't. I was actually at a meeting with Kelly Tobin recently from the Y, and she said it took them 3 times to get it for the Grace Brown. So it's a great project. We know we need housing here in Cortland. It's just, you have to keep going through the hoops and just keep reapplying. But as you know, Brendan said, our option's running out in November. I reached out to the seller, asked if he could extend it. He said he would, but he was gonna charge us. And I said, well, we'll put more money toward the down payment. He said, no, we don't want it down for the down payment. We're gonna want 10,000 just so he could keep the option, so he could make pay his taxes, insurance. That's a lot for us just to give the seller 10,000 that we wouldn't get back. So then we're thinking it'd be nice to just buy it, have it. You're gonna get a few extra points on the application, which won't hurt. Then that way we have site control. I mean, right now we have site control, but it's just, a purchase option. He's telling me that he's getting interest from other people, which it's been vacant for years, but now all of a sudden, because we want it, he says, oh yeah, so I just don't wanna lose this property. It's a great site. If we lose the property, we're gonna have to start all over, and we can't afford to do that. So I've talked to my board of directors, and we really feel the best option would be to purchase it. I don't think I can go to a bank and ask for a loan for vacant property. So we're kind of in a little bit of a bind right now.
That option expires before they'll probably hear from HCR on
Right.
one way or the other. We we do have the capacity in our loan fund to handle a loan that would be of this type. Like I said, we would just need to trigger the governance committee to discuss the terms, the policy, and what that might look like. But I would love to hear from the BDC board members on their thoughts, opinions, and go from there.
You're saying the policy doesn't allow you to fund a nonprofit, is that this particular policy, this
It's our
group?
policy. Yeah.
Loan policy has always been for profit.
It's in our policy.
What does it entail to change the bylaws of the BGC?
It would just be an action from the governance committee, making a suggestion to the full board to make
That's
it.
it?
Our funds are completely unencumbered. We've spent them, the original grant amounts in full. So these loan funds are completely the property of the BDC. So as long as the BDC board approves the policies, we can make changes as we see fit.
Yeah.
And that would be a change throughout the remainder of the BDC until it's changed
It
again.
would,
It's not a
that's why
one-time
it takes
change.
a conversation, 'cause I think we need parameters for it. I mean,
Yeah,
we weren't, thinking that we would ask you to do it just for one instance, you know, we
No, it
don't
should
wanna
be,
do
it
that.
should be a total.
But we've been
policy.
talking at our meetings how we do have a lot of money in there. One of our thoughts earlier from staff had been to create some kind of grant fund. Then in talking to Shauna and realizing, you know, that there are some situations where you may, you know, it may make sense to support it for a not-for-profit. Then perhaps we, instead, the board would want to look at how much we have in that loan fund and dedicate perhaps just a portion of it to not-for-profits. But with guidelines that you would all be comfortable with, like for a specific mission, not just operations. Obviously, we still need collateral, at least in my mind, I would want that as CFO, I would still want our loans to be secured. Because most not-for-profits are poor too, so they're, you know, they can't just start giving away our money, then we may as well do a grant program if we're gonna do that. But the loan fund, you know, there would be, we'd have to write some kind of parameters, or we could for the community somehow, you know, checking different boxes of what they're saying they want to do would really, enhance our community and have some kind of collateral to support it.
and it would be for a board recognized, necessary investment into the community.
Yeah,
So,
and a dollar limit too.
yes.
You know, like whether currently our loan portfolio, we don't loan more than 100,000. In this case, they may need more than that, so
Mhm.
some may need more than that. I don't know if we want to raise that or just or not raise it, or maybe make it well under that. I don't know.
How long has this policy been in place, and in the history of the BDC, has this ever been talked about before changing, and do other BDCs?
It has,
have
no,
this?
our loan policy has been in place for, I think, my whole career.
A very long time.
Very long time. The most we've changed is perhaps like the application fee and the interest, not even the interest rate, that's been the same for 25 years. But, so I think it's, you know, where it's looking at it to see whether or not you decide to do it. You may say we don't want, at the end of the discussion, but either the board won't like what the governance committee may propose, or the governance may have nothing to move forward. And that's, I think,
So as a board, we can maybe make a motion to let the governance committee talk amongst themselves and bring it.
that's what we thought the starting point would be, to have the governance committee get together with staff, come up with some red line agreements, you know, and then bring it to the board for discussion on that. And we welcome any board input. I would assume the governance committee would like to hear your input if you want to just chime in on what you may like to see in there, and then it's up to the governance committee to pull it all together for your review. In this case, the more we thought about their problems, it really, you know, something like that, like the land would be an asset, you know, so I felt comfortable in the sense like, yeah, in this one situation, if we were to do this, we have an asset that's adjacent to property that we own.
Adjacent to the eighth.
Yeah,
Right.
we own, right.
Yeah.
So then we're like, hey, you know, this
It's
one.
not exactly the
makes
worst thing if it came back to us.
But we also knew.
No, you won't. That's not the point.
But rather than approach you, I mean, we can do anything we want as a board, so we could approach you for a one-time thing, but
Mhm.
then the more we thought about it, it's like, well, that's, you know, why don't we just look at this as maybe, or perhaps a change to our policy?
Right.
And a means to get our money out in the community. We have almost 750,000 in that loan fund. And it's really just been sitting there idle,
So
so.
why not open the pool to potential other projects that could be out there?
Right,
Mhm.
but it definitely has to have parameters. Like I see in a minute, there's a lot of not-for-profits, they all have good missions and they're all
Well,
need
that's,
money.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's.
And right, so we have to have, it has to be very specialized, in my opinion, but that's came up to the board to.
Can I ask, what is the cost of the property, what are they asking for it?
The property, it was 99,000, we've paid out 15,000 so far, so we do owe 84.
And how many acres?
Little over 3, it's like 3.25. It was assessed at, I think, about 99, now with the city reassessed, I just found out it's like assessed at 119. So that's making me a little nervous too, because I'm thinking when November comes, maybe he won't want to re-sign this. And if we, like I said, if we lose this property, we've spent
I think
over
we need to
100.
nail this down, that's what I think.
And
That's
we
good
have
price.
100 in it. as well.
Yeah.
If you remember, we did do the 100 grant, that was a
Right.
conditional grant, which was really a loan, but not through the loan fund. It's if they get their grant, we get reimbursed the 100,000. So we were also protecting our monies to, when we were,
Right,
we listened to her. At first, they approached us as, can you loan us the money? And that was a little harder, you know,
Yes.
just the option, that was a little harder for me to swallow than actually
But
loaning
further,
them enough money to buy the property.
yeah, further discussion hashed it out that it could be.
Yeah, yeah.
Certain terms.
So yeah, so it's kind of it spurred like a light bulb of like, gee, maybe you guys wanna look at this.
Yeah,
So that's what we're open to today, if you have any comments.
I mean, I would be open to, I think the governance committee should get together and put together some specifications.
We need a motion on that.
I don't think so.
Okay,
No.
can't hurt, let's just,
Make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
all right, motion's been made and seconded, any other discussion?
I would just add a discussion, should we put a timeline on it so that we're respectful of
Yeah,
the option of exercising?
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Expiring. So we know we have a goal of governance to get together and we'll bring it back to the full board.
maybe
Bye.
next month, yeah.
Yeah, because it's,
Yeah, when-
June, hopefully
Yeah.
June, July, at the very latest, but I would think June, and then there could be changes from that board meeting too, and you all see it. So,
All right, motion's been made and seconded, any other discussion?
So what's the dollar figure you're looking for?
84?
at least the 84,000, so
So
we
then they
can,
have costs.
Yeah.
I mean, there are gonna be closing costs, but, you know, if we need to find that somewhere, and we are very small now for profit, but I know, like you said, all not-for-profits are struggling, but hopefully the closing costs would be minimal, but so at least the 84, so we can buy it from the seller, and then if we have to find funding from other sources to pay for closing costs, we can do that.
So the what if your process doesn't come to fruition? So no, you have property, we have property. And
You would end up-
that's the collab, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 100,000 a lot, but in this day and age, it isn't, so.
That's what we figured, that the what if, it's like if they don't ever get the
They're not
grant.
gonna-
And then we transfer the property back to you, and then you guys can sell it or something.
Yeah, but that's gotta give you another feather, going forward, that, you're that committed.
Right,
And we as a community, are that committed, so I would think that they would look at that.
right,
That's what we were hoping to.
Yeah.
Their next request
Yeah.
for the grant would be enhanced with our support. It would really show that the
Sure.
community is supporting this, even though there was support letters in their grant.
right.
It would go very far, I think, but
Well, there's a little more skin in it too, so, yeah.
yeah.
I would think
And I
that
guess
would.
the other thing too, at least in this situation, but we're going to have to look at it. They wouldn't really be able to make payments on the loan right away, so there would be some kind of terms of, deferred interest.
Then it gets better.
Yeah.
Plus Paul's over 62 now.
He's gotta recuse himself.
Should both the
I
loan
wanna-
and the governance committee be involved in this, since it's kind of a joint?
You could
thing?
pull them together.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, yeah.
So do you want to amend
your motion.
Yeah, it's for the revolving loan committee and governance committee to meet and propose, make a proposal for June meeting.
Yeah.
I'll
So
second
how
it.
about if that staff will send out just some bullet points of what we're kind of thinking, and then, so then the committees will have something to start working
Sure,
on.
yeah.
right away.
Yep. And Eric, who's on the committees?
Just as a reminder, governance is Ms. Burke, Mr. Richards, Ms. Kremnick, and Mr. Quintino. Revolving loan is Chairman of Command, Ms. Ames, Ms. Burke, and Mr. Hodge.
So if it comes back, you've had your meeting, it comes back to us next month.
Yep.
Then we can act on it, is that
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
Right. Okay.
Approve it and act on it.
If we had if there was a loan application time, would it be best that it came at a following board meeting or just following the approval of a new?
Either way, would be
It
perfectly.
could, I think,
Just keep moving.
in this situation, if it does happen, there.
Yeah.
We have a loan
Sooner the
application.
better.
Yeah.
I have a motion by Mr. Hodge, seconded by Mr. Richards to call it
Yeah.
joint meeting of the revolving loan and governance committees to review the revolving loan policy.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure thing.
Thanks.
Karen, how about finances?
Okay, financials. Let's see, so. Right at the very last day of the month, we reimbursed our last ARPA grant next month, and it was really close to the wire getting this out. I put together a really nice report for you guys that shows, from the beginning, the inception of what I have it. I just wanted to like really tweak it up and, just pretty it up for you guys. So next month I'll have something more, and you can look through and see it all at a glance of every grant that we funded for these 2 years. Is that how long it's been now? 2 years. We did earn interest.
No one's counting though.
Who's counting?
Yeah.
We did earn about $2,400 in interest. I was able to set up an interest-bearing account where we got 600,000. We earned some money, so that was nice. But we did refund the last one, so that made us very happy. Also in the financials, you may have noticed the Ag Summit. I know I wasn't here at the last month's board meeting, maybe we talked about it then, but we did have the Ag event for dinner. And we did during April, we wrapped up both the revenue, we had a few outstanding reservation payments and expenses. We brought in 3,855 for revenues, we expended 5,371, so the BDC support to that event was 1,560. So that worked out, and we're already talking about next year's, I guess, getting even more support, where perhaps the BDC just runs it and doesn't cost them any money, but we did bring that back after not having it for COVID, through COVID for a couple of years. Financially wise, I mean, those are my highlights for you. I don't know if anything jumped out to you that is new. We did get our, it would be our second contract payment from the county. That's running smoothly. And everything else is running smoothly. In my opinion, we're doing well compared to our budget. If anybody had any questions on any of the specifics of the BDC? I'll jump right into the revolving loan fund. You almost had an application at this meeting in the loan committee. I am working on an application. Last hour, there was a few changes, but actually, the day before I left for a week off, they called back and said they would be submitting. They were agreeing to some new collaterals. We were working out collateral. So the committee, we're gonna send out an email to you folks in the next few days. I just want to confirm that with them again today, now that I'm back, that they told me. So, so that's good. But the existing loans that we have, the Brown's performance course, I know I've been mentioning, things have been tough for her. She did go out of business.
She did.
She did, yeah. She mainly supported the college group and the college group, and she really tried after that. She began because of that group. And we talked early on, and she was trying to get other customers. She had some, it just wasn't enough to support it. But she's got a full-time job, and we're working through the transition. She has every intention of paying off this loan. And hopefully on May 24th, we're gonna get the next payment, and we're not imposing, this was a COVID loan too, so there are no late fees that we're imposing for being late, and she's really wants to pay it off, so I'm hopeful that'll continue. The other COVID loans, we have a couple of them, we have one more payment, you can see on your chart there, the two community and the housing project. We're into our last payment in the month of May. So that's been a long time coming, and the others are just moving along just fine, no issues at all, I have no concerns. So we will, again, we'll have a smaller portfolio and more money in our loan fund as we look at changing it, seeing if there's any changes to be made. So that's all I have for finances.
All right, any questions for Karen? Not, close the BDC and we'll open the IDO. And you make the motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Any additions or deletions? Exceptions? Problems? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Minutes carried. Cortland Hill PV LLC project, Brendan, take it away.
Yeah, so we've been working through this project for quite some time, and it came back around, and to give you guys a little brief rationale on the project, they're proposing a 12.4 million 5 megawatt project to establish a community solar facility in the town of Cortlandville. This project encompasses developing and constructing over 10,000 PV panels on a single axis trackers. It will be located at 3023 Route 215 in the town of Cortlandville, spanning just over a 32-acre portion of a 75.78 acre parcel. This project will include acquiring an interest in land and easements to allow for the facility's construction and the internet connection to the utility infrastructure. This project will also include the acquisition and installation of access roads, equipment pads, fencing, and electrical generating equipment, including racking modules, transformers, and inverters. Cortlandville PV LLC is seeking a 15-year pilot from the CCIDA to incentivize the project, which will provide new revenues to affected taxing entities totaling $475,568 over the next 15 years. An additional $129,700 to the town of Cortlandville over the next 15 years as the project's host community agreement. Provide an additional $49,614 to the fire district revenue over the next 15 years. And it doing an additional $24,766 over the term of the pilot as the assessment basis moves from agriculture to industrial. While also this will hit on reducing New York State's reliance on fossil fuels following the climate leadership of the CLCPA. The town of Cortlandville, which I think Tom Williams is the supervisor, is available to answer any questions on the town's end virtually. But they conducted the environmental review and was involved in the host community agreement negotiation and is fully supportive of this project. Staff are recommending approval of the incentives for this project as further detailed with the attached documentations.
And we had their attorney Kevin McCall here, just with anything to add or?
No, that was, I wish all I did. I wouldn't even have to put a color in our shirt. It was wonderful. I think the only thing I would add is that our firm represents Luminace. Luminace is now the owner of Cortlandville EV LLC. This was originally developed by RIC, with whom Karen worked for a long time. And our client bought all the membership interests and all the rights to develop this, and they are ready and funded to go develop this project.
And can you talk about, Kevin, why they're seeking a pilot? Why does this company feel that it's important that they get the support from the IDA?
Sure. The problem with all renewable energy projects is that you have to spend a fortune, but you're not going to pull that back out in revenue. You'll have tax credits that in a sense are like a grant because they'll reduce your capital cost. But if you look at this project, it's gonna cost $12.4 million. We've updated the numbers to current numbers from those that Rick had. As you're probably all aware, the cost of all renewable projects has gone way up over the last couple of years. An $8 million project a couple of years ago is now 12, a 12 is now 18. And this one had the same type of rise from 8 or 9 to 12.4. There is a state model that assessors are supposed to use for valuing these facilities and in turn then guiding what the tax burden would be. The problem is that first, our great friends in Schoharie County started a lawsuit a couple of years ago, which was then, in a sense, rendered moot because the New York State Legislature determined that SAPA, the State Administrative Procedure Act, was not applicable. Well, they started a second lawsuit now, last month, declaring that the underlying statute itself is unconstitutional, not just the process in it, but by the mere demand that assessors follow this model. So therefore, there's great uncertainty out there as to how assessors should value these facilities. And the only way, quite frankly, that any development group gets a project through its internal investment or development committee is if there's a pilot in place. I'm unaware of any renewable energy project in the state that has been developed without a pilot, at least at some level. Maybe it's a 487 pilot with some of the jurisdictions, not all of them. But you really can't get approval to spend $12.4 million unless you have a budget that says, this is what my real property tax burden will be. It's very simple. You can't speculate with the uncertainty that exists today. And God forbid, if these things are ever assessed at what they cost, none of them will be built in New York. We'll see fossil fuel forever. And I think that's the other thing.
I think it's very much.
Yeah.
So Brendan mentioned a lot of, the calculations that you're looking at with this request. I'd like to go through it for you so you understand like what exactly they're seeking. As Brendan mentioned, the projected investment for this project is $12,433,043. They're looking at two benefits, which would be a sales tax exemption, which would be, they would be exempt from any sales tax for the construction equipment and materials for the solar array. That's valued at $496,000, and a property tax exemption for the 15-year period of the pilot. And the value of that real property tax exemption would be $493,861. Now, what we've done is they've mentioned there's this assessment calculator out there. The company has to answer questions, you know, at specifics to do with their project. It goes into this calculator and out pops like an average through the 15 years. There's a different value for each year based on this calculator. What I do on my end is I take that assessment, the current day rates, and add a 2% escalator throughout the 15 years for a worst case scenario for you. So the numbers you're looking at is really a worst case scenario, because we know we have a 2% tax cap. It may come in lower than that, obviously, as the taxes don't go up accordingly for 2%. But what we will know is the megawatt payment that they'll make in lieu of that ordinary tax. So as you're reading down on your page, that megawatt payment that they're proposing to us now would be $5,500 a megawatt plus a 2% escalator over the 15 years. So we know that without a doubt, the company will pay over 15 years, $475,569. So that exemption you see up above is net of that. It's our calculation of the worst case scenario of taxes. They were on the ordinary tax roll that they are not paying, less the megawatt payment. Something that's outside of our pilot, we're not allowed to, we don't collect the host community agreement, but we strongly suggest that there be a host community agreement, and the town of Cortland actually has a local law that they say solar projects in their community, they wish to have a host community agreement. And they set the margin at 1,500 a megawatt plus a 2% escalator for the period of our pilot. So what we have to do, the way we come up with, some say, how'd you come up with that 5,500 megawatt payment? Is we put the two together as an overall cost to this project moving forward. They obviously don't want to pay more than the ordinary tax, or they would just pay the ordinary tax. So that's the way the staff, we, working with the project, come up with what we feel is a medium ground for what that megawatt payment should be. So that's something to keep in mind. However, we will not collect the host community agreement, but it will be a contingency in our pilot that they have one and continue to maintain it through the 15-year period. Should that ever cease, then there would be grounds for termination if they weren't paying the host community agreement. Also, as a benefit, I note on here, the underlying land is not a part of this pilot, as none of our solar projects have been. And that formerly was like a rural ag. In this case, there was a little home on it, so it's the very lowest of a residential tax base. But once it becomes a solar array, it is now considered light industrial, so there is an increase in the land tax that will stay on the section 1 roll. And the increase that you'll see coming in due to this project happening would be 24,766. And again, that's on the valuation that I got from the town and using current tax rates and moving forward. Fire tax is not part of our pilot, so you'll receive increased fire tax on the underlying land, because of course now it's worth more, so that's delivering more in payments. And the solar array, the assessment calculator numbers that were determined are not part of this pilot, and that would bring in 49,614,000 based on, again, today's fire tax rates with a 2% escalator through the 15 years. So that's how the numbers shook out. In conclusion, at the end of my report, you see that I did do a comparison for you that you're able to take a quick glance at. What are you currently getting for current land taxes? I'm not going to go through all the numbers because they're sitting in front of you. But you can see with no project, what you're currently getting for land tax, what you're estimating to get with a pilot over the 15 years. The improvements to the property, what you're currently getting, which is 0, and everything you're getting is of course a gain, and that combined with the host community agreements, again, those, even though we're not collecting it, it's monies to our community. Together, those two numbers were 605,268 over the 15 years. That we know for sure. That's not, like I said, just a guess. That's a definite. And then the fire taxes you see on the improvements to the property right now, they are not getting anything on this solar array, but they will over 15 years. And again, I show you that calculation. And of course, the underlying land tax as well for the fire district. So overall, their investment to the abatement that they're seeking is 12.56 to 1. And then we also pointed out to you, this isn't, it does vary from our UTEP, our uniform tax policy. Ways that it does vary from our UTEP is a 65% reduction of property taxes and at 10-year period, and this is only a 51% reduction, and it's over a 15-year period. And there are no 0 years in payments. Our UTEP has 0 years for payments of property taxes, but we'll get megawatt payments starting in year 1, which will start in January if this is approved through this year. There's a lot for you. Any questions?
Very thorough. Great job.
What is UTEP? Is that like a
Uniform tax
that's
acceptance policy.
uniform, okay.
The state requires us to have, it's like a basic boilerplate,
Yeah.
but then you can vary from it, but whenever you vary from it, we have to make you aware of it. Sometimes, I think they did that because if you vary to make it more lucrative.
Correct.
In our case, we always vary from it, but it's to bring more into the community from our pilot deals.
And you're aware of it, but you're required to notify all the taxing jurisdictions so they know that they're gonna get less is the theory. If it's a more lucrative pilot agreement, they need to know in advance and have the opportunity to comment.
Yeah, and so they pay attention, so that it gets their attention, so they're aware of it. As Brendan mentioned, from the get-go, once we got this application, it's been in the queue for quite some time, but because of their process and their investment process, it's just now coming to you to consider. But from the very beginning, our office did have conversations with the town of Cortlandville to get their stand on it. They obviously went through the EAF and also with their planning board and the zoning board, whatever their process is. But they were in support of it. The lands that this will be on are mostly unusable lands. It was all in the report for the EAF of what types of land this is being built on.
On 215, is it to the left or to the right? Is it the, going up? From forward?
I didn't drive by it. I only saw the map. So
West.
somebody that knows what you said.
So is that the, no.
Really thought we weren't going. That's why I started chatting like that way.
Never eat soggy waffles. My kids came down from school, never eat soggy waffles.
You're heading toward Virgil.
Yeah, there you go. At first, when we got solar projects, we all wanted to go up and drive by it. We realized you really can't because they're hidden. They are pretty much.
Yeah,
Some of them, you can
Hard
go
to get
through
to
this.
the west is down, yeah.
And Eric and I did have an adventure one day in his truck trying to go
Yeah.
through this. For our lives and workers' comp purposes, we stopped. But again, that's done by the town. The town has completely gone through this, which you'll see as we move forward.
And
The next steps, but
for just a policy procedure update and how we're going. So what we're asking you to consider today is one, review of the seeker, the environmental forms, and consider those. And then also consider approving the preliminary inducement, which then triggers a public hearing and a final inducement for the next month. Which pending any communication or any thoughts that you might have between then and now, as long as you publicly declare them, you can change one decision one way or the other. But that's just the preliminary inducement and what that's triggering. And pending the outcome of this, we will tell everybody when and where the public hearing will be scheduled from there.
Tom Williams,
you muted.
are you muted? Yes, you are.
How's that? Better?
Hey, Tom.
How are you?
Any comments, anything you want to add to this?
No, I'm comfortable with it. The only question I have, and it's been asked of me several times, I guess, recently, how are you handling the decommissioning process in this? For the last 10 or 15 years, there's been relatively no inflation in anything. My guess is decommissioning costs will go up dramatically. Has that been factored in anywhere?
So the IDA has historically taken the position that it leaves the decommissioning process to the town and what they require. If the town does not have its own decommissioning process, if they're not requiring a bond of you, then this IDA will. But most towns do. I don't know if.
I apologize, I do not know, what the status of.
I can't imagine.
Decommissioning of Cortlandville.
Cortlandville does not require one. I'm pretty sure they do. But we'll sort that out between preliminary and final inducement with the town.
Mhm.
All right, I'll look at it at this end and get back to you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, any questions or discussion from the IDA? Questions of Kevin or Brendan or Karen? If not, then I will make a motion to approve a resolution determining that an action by Cortlandville PV LLC to construct a 5 MW community solar project will require no determination of significance or additional seeker review.
Second.
Motion made in second. All those in favor on the roll call vote? Myself, yes. Stephen Compagni, absent. Clint Brooks. Deb Hayden.
Yes.
Joanna Ames.
Yes.
Kathleen Burke.
Yes.
Don Richards.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. And with that, I'll now make a motion to approve a resolution taking preliminary official action toward the acquisition, construction, installation, and leasing of a certain commercial project for Cortlandville PV LLC. Need a second?
Ms. Ames, Ms. Burke.
Okay. And on the roll call vote, myself, yes, Stephen Compagni absent, Clint Brooks.
Yes.
Deb Hayden,
Yes.
Joanne Ames,
Yes.
Kathleen Burke,
Yes.
and Don Richards.
Yes.
Motion carried. All right. Thank you all very much for your time and consideration. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John, when that comes before the, Cortland County Planning Board, they will address that decommission also. It will more likely be part of the recommendation.
Oh, recommendation, yes.
Typically,
Yeah.
they do that.
I think.
That should have already happened because they already have their town approval.
I think in there, I think you remember, I said, I didn't bring the entire file,
Yeah, I don't
I'm
have mine with
pretty
me.
sure I got it sitting in my.
They already have all their town approvals, so there must
Yeah, and
be.
they usually send me a copy, and I'm pretty sure I already have it, I was looking for a reference.
Yeah, that's what we use for it too, I think.
I believe they made a reference in their
In the town
application
approval.
as well,
I think so.
Yeah, that's where it should be.
but I didn't, yeah.
And the town
Again,
board,
that's a recommendation from the board. But the-
from the planning board, but
Correct.
from the county planning. The town will not approve a solar project without a decommissioning bond. Would be shocked in Cortlandville if they did.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I have a copy of it too, even back there, but we'll work on that, make sure.
Okay, Tom, you're all set? I don't know if
Yeah,
you gotta do all
appreciate
that, but- Okay.
Good.
Thanks for joining us.
Okay, next up is the, oh, we need to approve for a public hearing.
You're gonna direct staff to schedule.
I'm gonna
It's already done.
direct
It's
staff.
done.
It's all done.
It's in the resolution.
Yeah.
Alright,
Mhm.
then, we will move on to, consideration of a resolution authorizing the conveyance of a 14-acre parcel of vacant land in the town of Cortlandville to the village of Hope.
And if you guys remember, this is the old Nintendo site that we're considering, and we've known since early 2000s that we took on to clean up. As we talked about, we've done the process and the cleanup, we deemed the cleanup as being successful. We've tried to market it a number of different times to a number of different entities without much luck, seeing that it's quite a
Has
bit in the
issues.
floodplain, has issues, yeah, there's multiple issues. So where we sit currently is, the village is doing, their due diligence on the environmentals. We've disclosed all environmentals to the village for their, reading through and consideration. And this would be an action on our end to say that we're open to, giving that parcel to the village.
Any discussion on this? Okay, if not, I'll make a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the conveyance of a 14-acre parcel of vacant land in the town of Cortlandville to the village of Homer.
I'll second it.
So motion made and seconded. On the voting by roll call, myself, yes, Stephen Compagni absent, Clint Brooks.
Yes.
Deb Hayden,
Yes.
Joanne Ames,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
and Don Richards.
Yes.
I'd like to get a yes on that too, that's great.
I'll write you in.
Jason said, whoa.
Mr. Hodge affirms.
His dogs are waiting. Run in there. All right, thank you. Karen? Wanda?
Financials.
Financial.
You can see there's minimal activity, application fees though is $5,000, that is the solar application that you just reviewed. Just as a reminder, we upped that just for solar, there was a board policy change, for solar applications because of all the extra work that goes into them. In case they go south too, help to support us before the project fee, because It's a lot of work, like we've been talking about. I mean, these solar things go for months.
And they do go south sometimes.
And work on our end of what we have to do, and constant change in the numbers and whatnot, so. So that's what you're seeing for the application fee. A regular pilot is 500. Other than that, we did well on interest again, you know, the interest rates are up and we've got a lot of money, so we're doing well on interest. Minimal costs otherwise, just, I'm expecting, I'm sure we're gonna start seeing some expenses for our Cleveland Street property because it's spring and summer, so. I did get a call from our weed whacker lawnmower guy, he said, do you still wanna do it? I said, yep, start mowing again, so I'm sure he'll start mowing, and I know Eric had to be down there changing a lock or something, and we have little costs down there, so. You may see a little activity there, but right now, everything is as it should be. Which is minimal,
All right,
so.
thank you, Karen. Any questions for Karen? If not, are we done?
I was gonna, I have some stuff to talk about.
Oh, that's right. That's time to do that report. I'm sorry.
It's fine. And I guess this is most of this stuff is actually more BDC related, so instead of everybody, even though we're kind of fluid between the two meetings, I guess. As I've talked about in a couple different meetings, I want to put forward or get a consultant together to do a site inventory of all the potential developable sites within Cortland County. Look at greenfields, brownfields, old buildings, either rural or urban, and what can be done with those sites. I put together an RFQ and just pass it around, you can take a quick look and whatever, to issue to see what kind of interest we might receive. I know of a couple of consultants who have already expressed some interest through different talks. And I just wanted to call the board's attention to it, so that it's I'm gonna be issuing it and see any thoughts, any interest, and I can share these documents electronically afterwards as well. So this is the phase one of a two-phase project process. This phase one will just simply identify the parcels, identify where they're located, what size they are, and who the ownership currently is of the parcels. The phase two, I'm hoping to look to see if we can get a county-wide brownfield opportunity area approved for the county, which would open up funding to do a more deep dive into those sites and get good spec sheets created for it, as well as put it on a website, so anybody in the community would have access to these, this information. But once that's, as you can imagine, that side of it would be a little bit more costly than just identifying the sites. So if I can work and get a grant for the countywide brownfield, we can get that hopefully paid for through that. Entertain any questions, comments on that? Okay. I've been approached, and I talked to Mike about this a little bit too. So as many of you, probably, hopefully all of you are aware, we've been having the Small Business Development Center in this office on a regular basis. Right now, they're coming in every second Tuesday, to meet with small businesses, give them advisement, based on either they're just starting up, what they should go after, where they should look, how to develop a business plan, all the way to the back end of succession planning on how to get out of the business and how to sell it, whatever they want to do with it. We have been informed that their federal funding is remaining flat and their statewide funding is actually going down by a little bit. So currently, if everything holds stand to their budget, they will be able to do as many, if not any, in-person seminars here in the office. And that it would be more virtually, and then if not nearly as much at altogether. To give you a good idea, last year there was 48 unique clients coming into the office, 30 of them being new, over 218 counseling hours and supporting 38 jobs locally. From the numbers that they looked at back in April, they're projecting this year about 77 unique clients, 41 of them being new, and supporting 135 jobs. So obviously their services have been expanding here. But like I said, go back to the funding issue. They're approaching all the IDAs across their catchment area to provide some sort of funding to support their services until at least the state is able to increase their funding and they're able to advocate to increase their funding levels. I know a couple of other IDAs already approved some funding streams to them. And on the side of the BDC, I'd be seeking any advice or any thoughts on us providing a level of funding, at least for 1 year, to see what that looks like. I have said that if we do anything like this, we need more programmatic stuff going on here in the county. So they do a number of different week-long programs to small businesses to help them with their any issues that they might be having. They have not done anything here in Cortland County that I know of at all. And this would be telling them that they have to come here and do that program for any and all businesses. Once again, I mean, their services are completely free to the people using them. So we feel like it's a really good service, but not sure how the board feels about helping to fund them. And not sure if they want to do it as a 1 year basis for this time to see how it works. But I'd be open to discussion and thoughts.
Have they suggested an amount?
They came to us right away with the $15,000 for 1 year. I'm not entirely sure that I feel comfortable with the $15,000 mark. But like I said, I'd be open to hearing what everybody thinks.
It's a service that's certainly needed.
It is.
I don't know about the 15, I don't know where they got that number from.
Yeah.
It's certainly needed, and people have wonderful ideas, and well, and you hear the same thing that I hear, I'm sure. Everybody has a wonderful idea, how do we get?
How to execute it.
Right, how do we move forward, it's usually the challenge.
Call Karen.
That's what we use that's BDC for us, it's always been mainly the business plan
Yeah.
writing
Right,
concept, because, as Clinton knows, I mean, we know how to write a business plan, but it's very time consuming,
It is.
they have no clue, and even when you give them a template, what they write, it's like, okay, it's like, that's not gonna get you.
let's sit down and we'll work on this together, yeah,
So I think.
so it's certainly
They've
needed.
been like a babysitter of business plans, I call, I've never really seen us get much more than that out of that group, to be honest,
We're working on, well, hopefully, I'm gonna talk with you, having students be able to support this through our entrepreneurship minor, because they're required in our second class in the minor to write business plans.
Oh,
And there is software called Live Plan that the students have been using that also uses AI, so we're working on kind of a questionnaire that they can kind of fill out with I mean, AI is all about the prompts that you give it, so we can figure out what the right prompts are to have them answer those questions that will also help kind of populate that business plan for them. So there's lots of things that we're gonna be able to do out of our entrepreneurship center that will help offset, or we'll just say complement what the SBDC can do.
how soon do you think you'll be able to do that? Like, when would that begin?
When do I want it to begin? Ideally
I
this
wonder if we're
fall.
gonna have a gap in time.
Well, yeah, this fall, I didn't, because we had a turnover in the person who was teaching the course.
Right.
The person who stepped in wasn't as diligent as the other person who had done it.
Hopefully
So,
starting in fall.
yes.
Would it be
Yes.
year round? Would you
Yes.
have a summer program as well?
yeah, I hope to,
Okay.
right, to have summer
Yeah, I was
interns
thinking
being
about
able to do that.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, that's the thing, there are, that summer gap that we would have to try and fill, and if it can be remote work, then, because most students at the college have to work over the summer in order to pay for being here. So,
So is it just as easy as write me a business plan for so-and-so and AI, and is AI, you're putting in the prompts and AI
there's
is
specific
producing the
questions,
plan?
there's specific areas, for each of the areas of the business plan, they have to give details, and the more detail they can give, the better the program would be, so. Interesting, yeah.
I don't know, I can send out the specific proposal that they sent over to everybody, so you guys can read it, and you guys can give me feedback back, and I informed the director that we would not be taking any sort of action. I'm just kind of facilitating the thought process right now. And then I can bring the director in next month if everybody's interested in hearing from them and comprehending it. But between then and now, if anybody has any thoughts specifically about this, feel free to shoot it my way and we can discuss. But I'll share the actual proposal with everybody to see what they're proposing. And you can see the proposed amount on there as well. Moving on, talking about AI, Eric and I have been working with and listening to a company called Placer AI, which they are a location analytics tool, that uses everybody's cell phone data, GPS data that you don't even realize that your phone is doing to you, to show daily, hour by hour, minute by minute, consumer migration patterns. So it shows that you're here right now around all these other people. Then from here, you're going to this coffee place and getting a coffee. And then you're going to your office and they're getting bulk data from the cell phone companies that says that X amount of people went here and went there based on this time. I imagine some people in here, the wheels are already turning about the usage and how it could be used. We've been in talks with a number of different bids as well as IDAs around the area that have been using it. Tompkins County has been using it. What other county?
So it's the Ithaca bid that we've spoken to, Livingston County, which their IDA, LDC, downtown partnership, they're all, their tourism bureau, all under one umbrella.
And they all say that they're seeing amazing results from it. And one, we could see this as definitely a site selection tool. So if we're seeing that there's X amount of people at this place at this time, that could be a good retail establishment, that could be a good working establishment. On the other side too, it would be a good tool to support some of the local events, Gutchess Park. We did a little workup, they provided some information on Gutchess and their numbers of people attending, as well as where they're coming from before going to Gutchess and then where they're going to after they leave Gutchess. We've been talking about a number of different organizations about possible sponsorships, possible usages of it, and there's been some very significant interest in the platform. There is quite a substantial initial investment that we're looking at. And we would need these other partners to come on board to make it worthwhile. And it's $20,000 to get access to the full suite of materials as well as a Sherpa, if you will, to walk you through how and when and where to use the services. As Eric and I were talking about this morning, this downtown area is a blank slate, especially after all this construction going on. If we could find out if people are staying a significant amount of time down here, what services they're using, where they're going to before and after, it might help us to attract new businesses to the area, and how they use it. So with your blessing, we continue down the road and looking for it. I mean, I'd like to hear your thoughts to see if it's a worthwhile platform for the BDC to look into. I know, and I'm pretty sure American and I can chime in too. Our conversations with other organizations have been like, yeah, this is exactly what we would look for.
So specifically, we've been in conversation with tourism. We work very closely with the CVB, also with John McNerney and Michelle Phelps with the Sports Council and Duchess. I mean, this is an obvious supportive tool from the tourism and promotions and marketing perspective, but it really does have a lot of other capabilities. You know, it's not just cell phone data, it's also looking at, you know, credit card usage data, so Visa experience.
That's really good.
That's-
The income
right.
statement, income and all of that that's coming from that,
Exactly.
because that was really good. Yeah.
You know,
Under seven, iPhone 7, no one knows right.
I did have them run a couple of initial reports just to kind of get a sense of some of the opportunities that exist. As Brendan said, you know, some of the feedback, it's not surprising, but it's validating, you know, some of the things that we know, particularly as we looked at Gutchess, you know, we see that a lot of the spend is, you know, centered right around, the park. We're not really doing a great job of pulling those dollars back into the city, which is something that the, CDB is working on with that $250,000 sports tourism grant. This program also can do a really good job of mining real-time demographic data. So when you are applying for grants, you're actually getting actual data as opposed to using multipliers and sort of high-level information. Everyone I spoke to in the different communities that are using it all say they see countless options and opportunities with it. The one challenge or the one consistent piece of, I guess, negative feedback, if you will, was that just having somebody to actually sit down and mine out, you know, what you're looking for. I mean, data's great, but you gotta sort of know what you're doing with it in order to make it a useful, impactful tool. That's where we feel that, you know, having partnerships to help support the cost of this program, but also to be able to allow them to have access to it, would really be beneficial for everybody involved. We're, you know, Livingston County has a good setup in that they have a lot of dollars coming into one agency that they can sort of break it out and then share that cost. We don't, we have overlapping agencies, so we're really looking at trying to get other folks on board, but DDP absolutely is excited about this, along with others. But you can see where folks are going out of your community to spend their money. You can look across the state, you can see where folks are coming to predominantly in your community. So from a marketing standpoint, Philadelphia, for some reason, pings very heavily, as it relates to Gutchess. So marketing into the Philly region would be appropriate for us. And again, as Brendan mentioned, you know, I'm focused on what are we doing after construction, right? I mean, this is all gonna come to an end here at some point. What types of businesses are we bringing into specifically our downtowns? And obviously downtown Cortland is a big one. Homer's finding its own way in the retail market. We hear a lot about the criticisms of the lack of retail on Main Street. Is that supported by the demographics and the actual spends in our community? It may not be, but at least we would have the data to demonstrate, like, no, we shouldn't be trying to recruit retail downtown, and here's why.
Or you see that the number one visit before and after on there is Walmart, and it shows you that there might be some retail possibility too, right? You never know.
I think you need a Chick-fil-A in Portland.
Yeah.
Right, it's the only one not in Portland County that everyone's going to.
Students would be very
They
excited
would
about,
be.
students want retail on Main Street and sales on Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
But we, in the Community Innovation Lab this semester, we had a group that created an economic indicator dashboard. As part of what we're putting in there is also looking at regional things, so this kind of ties right into that, so I was gonna talk with you about that. And also present to this group to see what other indicators should be part of that, what you look at for your business. So that you can go to this resource to see what's been going on, and they're gonna be doing predictions. But they'll be at the Entrepreneurship Center, there'll be a group that's working on economic indicators every semester, so they can also be mining this data for important things.
Students.
Happy to.
Students
Bring
are
that
very
in.
happy resource.
Yeah.
College like to chip in. where-
That's, we can talk.
Yeah, it's pricey. Trying to get everybody to chip in.
Yeah, I give them a moment to actually bring it up and go like that. They do education rate, non-profit.
Yeah. So we'll talk.
Yeah. Few other really quick things. We are in talks with the REDC, the Economic Development Council, to do a CFA workshop. And it's gonna be on May 30th, right over here at the Muneal and Company Conference Hub, from 12 to 1.
12 to 1. It'll be a working lunch workshop, so we will provide lunch, and this will be an opportunity to go over round 14.
Yeah, and
of
unfortunately, we don't
CFAs.
have any of the details. That's all embargoed by the state until they can announce it on their own terms, but they'll be going over the whole round 14 parameters, what programs, what grants are out there and that sort of thing. All are welcome. There will be a registration link that we'll be sharing after this meeting. So please register and attend. I will be attending later this week a Smart Cities program down in Binghamton about how to grow cities, how to make them smarter going forward in the future. Should be an interesting conference, as well as New York State EDC meeting next week out in Cooperstown. I'll be out there to network with my colleagues across the state as well as, some really good information sessions that they have planned. Finally, we are scheduling our June board meeting for over here, also at the McNeil space, just to give everybody a heads up. After our meetings are concluded, we're gonna have a collaborative, board meeting between our boards as well as the Chamber of Commerce Board to get a brief update about, Micron and where that things are going. So you're not required to attend, of course, but it's right after our board meeting. So if you have the time and interest, feel free to sit and listen to what they have to talk about.
You said, Center State will be coming.
Yes, they will be.
And I'm pretty sure we will have another
Yes.
pilot application.
As well as this final inducement as well.
Which would be the pending city solar project that we've been working on for a long time, so that should be rolling out in the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
And possibly a new loan application,
Yes.
besides all this discussion on changing the loan policy. So free up your calendars.
Yes, next couple months we'll have lots of activity for you going on.
Oh, you know, maybe, I don't know.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, anything from anybody else? If not, make a motion to adjourn. I need a second.
Okay.
And we're adjourned, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. We have one. Here available. Thank you very much.
Right?
Yes.
Oh,